Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and Mark Rosewater just released an article that he does every year, which is a look back at all of the card designs and sets and how they did and that kind of stuff for 2019. This is a wonderful peek behind the curtain about why design and playtesting don't get it, why they're so bad at their jobs, and why they think they're good at their jobs, and why they keep screwing things up perpetually for the last 3 years. Specifically, the last 3 years. Standard has gone from unplayable shit show to slightly different unplayable shit show every time a set came out. There's too many sets legal, and there's too many overpowered cards. I mean, that's my review of 2019. And if you think something different, then you are playing a different game than the rest of us, because trust me, you are in the minority with that opinion. It has been bad, guys. That is a provable, statistically supported fact. I mean, just look at all the Teferi crap, Nexus crap, Control-a-thon Esper garbage, Red Rush ruining everything. It's been a disaster, honestly. But let's see what Mark Rosewater says. And of course he starts it out with, when I became head designer back in 2003, I decided I wanted to write a yearly article based on the US President's State of the Union speech. So that really tells you what his opinion of himself is. And everybody else's opinion is, I wish there was a term limit. So in case you didn't know, Mark Rosewater is in fact the head of design, which is really the only evidence you need that he should be fired. So let's just skim through all the ridiculous stuff that he has misinterpreted while he pats himself on the back. Oh, and for all you sensitive snowflake whiny douchebags, this is going to be a somewhat negative article, because it's been a somewhat negative year in Standard. If you want a channel where somebody just lies to you and hides the truth, f*** off. So for the overall Magic design, because he does break this down by set a little bit, the highlights were research and development is starting to hit the right level of complexity. I think he is right there. I mean, I'm not saying the whole article is wrong. He's probably mostly right with this, actually. It's just the misinterpretations of how they did and how sets were received and what caused problems and how big the problems were. Oh my gosh, it's worrying. So he thought 2 years ago that he let complexity get too high. Was it really higher than now? Not really, but I'd say just from a complexity and difficulty of play and understanding the play, depends how you define it. I mean, yeah, a pretty good year in 2019. The cards weren't boring, but the cards weren't difficult to understand rulings-wise, because they got rid of a bunch of mechanics that people really didn't like and just moved them to the almost never print category. And there you go. That's almost exclusively what did it. He attributes this to drawing the limit on complexity at common and then allowing way more complex mechanics in the uncommon slot, which I think that was very beneficial to the game. But then he cites the example of printing Planeswalker at uncommon, which there's too many damn Planeswalkers, and they're just glorified enchantments, and just there was so much wrong with that. He also says they're getting better at hitting player desires. I mean, yeah, but at the same time, you gotta, stop pissing people off. If you're gonna do what one group wants, you have to not drive away anybody else by doing other stuff that they don't like Nexus and Teferi, and 3-color control draw decks, which should never, ever, ever be a thing ever again. In fact, I would even generalize that to stop printing shit that doesn't let people play their deck. I didn't come to F&M to watch somebody play their deck while they don't let me play my deck at all. Not even one card, one spell resolving. Okay, that's bullshit. And I suspect that the enjoyability of opponent deck style doesn't occur anywhere in this article. So yay, we listen to people. Oh boy, well, people want to copy a stupid net deck, go to F&M and win 100% of the time. So people can actually just piss off. You need to stop listening to those lazy, entitled, whiny idiots who can't build their own decks and just want easy wins so that they can feel superior. The funny thing is the examples he gives are Slivers, Ninjas, and Snow, which weren't in Standard. I mean, I only care about Standard. Modern Horizons was pretty bad for Modern, honestly. It was a bit of a financial disappointment, too, with a lack of anything resembling a reprint. So, yeah, okay, sure, pat yourself on the back. I don't care. I only care about Standard. He also mentions that they've been embracing new tools to help make better designs. Anybody think, oh, okay, like a playtesting thing, like an AI system? No. I didn't even know this. This is the first I'm hearing about it. He says, for example, collation is the tool we use to ensure a balanced yet random mix of cards and boosters, which, by the way, they had tons of trouble randomizing boxes and boosters this year, so I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Massive failure. People are opening identical boxes. Same with 2018. Anyway, part of the success of the Planeswalker theme in World of Spark was us using a complex collation scheme to ensure that every booster pack had a Planeswalker. Oh, that's what he means. Oh, that's just stupid. They've been doing that for tons of sets. It's not even innovative. It's actually annoying. Dominaria had a legendary in every set. So what? He's acting like that ups the randomness. No, it means in every single sealed pre-release pool, you're going to have a certain number of Planeswalkers, which isn't really a good thing. Oh, and he completely undercuts this later in the article with something he says, and I'm going to be sure to point that out. So after the triumphs or highlights, or whatever the hell he said, lessons. Number 1, we could use more synergy between the sets. That is true. They're still complete and utter islands. They have nothing to do with each other, and when they do have something to do with each other, it's because somebody built 3-color control, and it's just the perfect storm of stupid overpowered crap that they didn't play test properly. So he says, oh, the fix for this is they want mechanical synergy between the sets, which is an unbelievably bad idea. Except Devotion. Reprint Devotion, Wizards. I mean, you can't just print Enraged Dinosaurs and leave it as is, play tested, cool, it's a good deck, people will play it, cool archetype, yay, and then do something to improve it with the next set and the next set. The deck would be too good. It's just that simple. And pick any mechanic. It's true for almost any of them. Oh, flying synergy, and then flyers, and then flyers, and then flyers again. Not a good idea. I mean, do you want to see what happens when synergy gets out of control? The Is It Drake's decks from 2019. That's what happens when multiple sets come together to completely ruin Standard, because you gave a certain mechanic too much support, and that's instants and sorceries in the graveyard and cloning them. Also, he says we need to spend more time on pacing. One of the complaints he got last fall was about the gap between Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance. One of the common complaints I got this spring/summer was about the cramped time frame between War of the Spark and Corset 2020 releasing. I didn't realize that they weren't exactly 3 months apart. Oh, with Modern Horizons in the middle, though. I mean, that's a good point. But you can't go 4-2 on the months just because a non-standard set is coming out. I mean, it's wallet fatigue, but is it really pacing? Not really. I'm too lazy to look up how far apart these really were, but I feel like they were, in fact, appropriately far apart. All right, so then he moves on to Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance. Highlights, we executed well on the guilds. That's true. Don't even need to look more into that. All the mechanics played well. Yeah, that's true. People built with all of them, I guess. And then players liked the overall tone of the sets. Yeah, duh. Character-based, lore-heavy. Too bad the book ruined it. Lessons, there wasn't enough innovation. I don't know. I played with a ton of cards from it. You don't need to innovate too much, or you're going to try something new that doesn't work. Like when they went way overboard, like Dredge, Infect, Annihilator. Like when they get too creative, you should be worried. I'd be more than happy with the very not vanilla sets instead of, we're going to innovate even harder. I mean, innovate on making the paper not crap. Make the foils actually look good and not curl. I mean, how about that for innovation? The game's been out for 25 damn years, okay? You're not going to find some amazing new mechanic you never thought of before that is beloved by everybody. It's not going to happen. Then they reiterate by saying the mechanics lack oomph. No. From those two sets, there were a lot of very drastically overpowered mechanics. I mean, the Golgari one was boring, weak, and stupid, but people still played it. It was uncreative, it was dumb, whatever. But I wouldn't say it lacked oomph. He also says the Ravnica Allegiance limited play didn't have the depth of Guilds of Ravnica. That is absolutely true, but who cares? That's what happens when you lay the groundwork and then basically print a support set when you were supposed to have gotten rid of multi-set blocks. So then War of the Spark, which he pretty much treats like a separate thing, even though it was 3 in a row on the same plane, but stylistically, yeah, it was a completely different set. That's why people were like, oh, what do you mean we're staying on the same plane again and returning to it for 3 times in a row? It was a completely different thing. I mean, the only reason they were still on the plane is the lore. Other than that, it might as well be a different set on a different place. You know, that's all I'm saying. So highlights from War of the Spark. Players loved the Planeswalker theme. Did they? I mean, I think they were just like, yay, my favorite characters. As far as functional, people thought there was too many Planeswalkers before you announced the set. So I find it very hard to believe that people overwhelmingly loved the set when it came out. I know I didn't. And remember, I read more comments from real people on just my channel than Mark Rosewater reads by probably a factor of 10. So to say that I know the community better than he does and the people's reaction to certain things, whether it's positive or negative, what the ratios are, yeah. a little bit better than he does, especially since he's super biased and only likes listening to certain people and then blocks people out as, oh, they're just haters, they're just complainers, they're just customers, listen to him. He just lives in his own little world where he thinks he can do no wrong. When he does, he just brushes it off and keeps making mistakes. That's what's wrong with Mark. That's why he needs to get fired. Like, if he was a coach of like a football or basketball or baseball team, he would have been fired so long ago because of this behavior. Just the lack of accountability, responsibility, and just his ego and not listening to the fans, the customers, whatever. It's unbelievable. I cannot believe they let him still work there. It's unreal. A second highlight, the fact that it was an event set came through loud and clear. He doesn't really clearly explain this. I don't know what he means. I don't know. A big special whoop-de-doo thing where the lore concluded with a shitty book. Whatever. No, people didn't like that. Then proliferate and amass. The two named mechanics in the set performed well. Cool. Yeah, you stole a broken as hell overpowered mechanic that's still overpowered to this day right now in standard in proliferate, and then amass was neat. But putting all your eggs in one basket is a good way to just get absolutely destroyed by one single spell, which is a very unfun way to play Magic. I like Devotion, where it's like, oh, they blew up one of my creatures. Okay, that set me back a little bit, but I'm not completely ruined. These all-in, double down kind of strategies where you need something to not get blown up, otherwise you basically lose the game. Very bad for the game. That's why I didn't love Amass. And so on top of it, to try to make it work, Amass's back end was way too control heavy, and I kind of hated that. So it was neat, but the implementation of it was very poor. So the fact that he's proud of it, he should not be. Lessons. There were too many rare or mythic rare bombs. Absolutely. I would say that sets in the past, like Eldritch Moon and Aether Revolt, were a million times worse than this. But he says this is the most common complaint that he got about the set. So he says, players in general loved the limited gameplay because remember, he can't insult something without padding it first. But they disliked how many rare and mythic rare cards there were that were next to impossible to answer with common and uncommon cards. Because remember, common and uncommon cards are what build the sets. Whether it's draft or sealed, that is going to be your bread and butter. So if somebody pulls a card that you can't deal with, they basically just won. And then that encourages cheating to either add it to their pool or to manipulate it to the top of their deck. It's just bad. You bomb cards that win, pre-release is very, 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 very bad. So he says the God Eternals were the biggest culprit of this issue. Absolutely. I hate going into a pre-release and looking at like the number one deck after round 2 or 3 and saying, well, if I play them, I lose. I want a level playing field based on deck building decisions, gameplay decisions, and skill, not, oh, look what I opened. So I completely agree with him there. So he said his solution in the future is to have more low rarity answers to the bomb cards instead of fewer rares and mythics that are powerful. Because, then it ruins constructed. You gotta have some good cards. You gotta sell the set. And yeah, I don't mind that. There really shouldn't be cards that come out like Scarab God or the God Eternals or Rekindling Phoenix where it's so narrow to get rid of it, you have to focus all your efforts on getting rid of that one card or you're going to lose. That's so annoying, especially if it costs less than 7 mana. And then at like 3 mana, you got like Davriel, so yeah. So you leave champion, you kill it within like 2 turns or you're dead. You lost the game. That's bullshit. I don't care about limited or anything. I just stop printing unsolvable bombs. The deck and the decisions on what to play when and how to build your deck and how to sideboard should be what makes cards very hard to stop. Not this card is just in a vacuum too damn hard to stop. I mean, the number one offender would be Carnage Tyrant. I know he's not even talking about this set, but just that is the example from the last couple of years of standard here. Carnage Tyrant. There should never be a Carnage Tyrant. Can't be countered, 6 toughness, so it basically can't be killed in combat, and then hexproof. It can't be targeted by anything. You basically can't get rid of it without like a board wipe or a death toucher, like that's it. I mean, for sacrificing, cloning it, whatever. It's stupidly narrow. So whether it's in constructed or limited, stop printing that, Wizards. They're probably like, oh, this card and this card and this card will sell the set. Not if you don't have any players willing to play the format anymore. So, no, stop flying too close to the sun and melting your wings on that. I'm at the point, and so is everybody else that I've heard of, where if they print one more stupid freaking Scarab God, where nothing gets rid of this overpowered ass card, which by the way costs 5, I am done with standard for a year and a half until it rotates out, because cards like that. Next up he says, the static ability of some planeswalkers is hard to remember. I didn't really notice this till he said it. I thought, well, just look at the damn card. But a lot of them look alike. There's a metric buttload of planeswalkers, and I've made a mistake where I thought, oh, that's Narset. She does the thing where you can't sacrifice. Oh, no, crap. No, she's the one that says each opponent can't draw more than one card each turn. I mean, there was overlap with, like, you know, oh, the blue planeswalker. Oh, that's the one that does that. Oh, wait, no, it's the one that does that. And you don't want to sit there and read a card you've seen 100 times before, but there was too many damn planeswalkers. So, yeah, the static abilities were too disconnected from the lore of a character, or such a minor character you didn't know what the hell they did. Like, oh, Chandra's one, she does damage you. But then again, there's 3 freaking Chandras right now. Which is the one where when you remove loyalty, she does damage to you? I keep forgetting which one it is, and I have to read it every damn time. So, yes, stop doing that. That said, I do want to see planeswalkers with passive abilities, though, because that's awesome. Hey, it worked for Pokemon, both in the card game and in the actual games. Well, he says, oh, one of the complaints was insert name here didn't have a card. And he's like, yeah, we couldn't fit it. Well, you set yourselves up for that one. Not a big deal, though. Who cares? It's just whiny, lore people. Lore people, as much as I love them and kind of am one, they'll never be happy, so... I mean, you printed that book and the book was freaking terrible. Do you really care about pissing them off a little bit more at this point? Oh, then you go to an interesting new fairy tale set. Oh, and then paywall the lore. Sorry. I kicked you in the left nut. Now we're going for the right one, and I got my steel toes on. So then he goes on to Modern Horizons. I don't care. I'll just read the titles. Highlights. Players enjoyed the time spiral-like goodness of the set. The set's flavor really resonated, and the set delivered on a lot of long-desired themes. I mean, yeah, the third one's true. Lessons. The name misled people. You think? It had absolutely nothing to do with Modern, so I could see why you would say that. It wasn't by any stretch of the imagination a reprint set. I mean, yeah, it didn't say Masters, but come on, we all know what it was. Then you got the MSRP confusing people. I'll throw that one in too, even though he didn't say it. Number 2, it was too easy to get into traps drafting the set. I don't know, I didn't draft it, so whatever, take your word for it. Players didn't get enough chance to draft the set. That's because it's really stupidly expensive, and Standard is more durable than that. So what are you going to do about that? Who cares? It was supposed to be a reprint set. It was supposed to allow Modern to actually be financially playable and cheap enough to play. That's the point of these supplemental sets. And who cares about draft? It should be a very secondary, if not tertiary, priority. Enough value that people want to buy it and open it, and the formats that it supports, Eternal and Modern, it should make those actually affordable without just going nuts and crashing the whole market. Those should be the priorities for any supplemental set that costs above $3.99 booster, and this did. Instead of just, oh, here's new crap. I hope it doesn't completely shake up Modern, but secretly we do. Ha ha ha. Oh, crap, Hogak. Whoops, we went way too far. Dread should never be a thing ever again. Oh, is it a 10 on the Storm scale? I forgot. They really screwed up Modern Horizons. They really did. So then he moves on to Core Set 2020. Highlights. The set drafted very well. Cool. Take your word for it. The set provided cards for a lot of different formats. So Standard should be the priority. And if you accidentally support other formats, well, cool. But a lot of M20 cards made it to Vintage. Vintage, people. Great. Bob Ross loves your happy accident, but if you're printing vintage grade cards in Standard, you should step back and say, wait a minute, we might have let the power level creep a little too high for Standard. And spoiler alert, they did. And third, the set had a lot of cards aimed at lower tier Standard decks. How and why is that a good thing? Because the tier 1 was so oppressive and so impossible to deal with and play against. Who gives a flying about the lower tier Standard decks? Because you can't play with them unless you're not playing with assholes, which, sorry, that's not F&M. And holy hell, is that not Arena? Let me just flip this around so it makes sense. We printed a bunch of low-powered, low-tier, unusable crap, and we're happy about it. Cool. I mean, I guess, because it's the 8th set to be legal, so Standard didn't need more overpowered crap. Whatever. I'm getting the impression Mark Rosewater wouldn't know what direction up is if you handed him a helium balloon. Lessons that they learned from the set. The set didn't have a particularly strong theme. Really? Is that because it's a stupid, boring core set with no storyline and no central mechanic on purpose? By design? How is that a lesson? The lesson should have been you shouldn't have brought back core sets. They don't sell and they don't do anything. It's just a bunch of garbage, low-powered reprints. And then some players are starting to feel Planeswalker fatigue. Well, don't mention it on Twitter. You'll get temporarily blacklisted by Wizards, of course. That's what happened to Sibon, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Aetherhub guy. Yeah, we're sick of Chandra, and I'm sick of her stupid, overpowered turn 1 emblem cannot be countered bullshit, okay? It's really just that card, specifically. But, Mark, if you're going to say that the problem with M20 is that it put too many Planeswalkers in a standard, I'd like to direct your attention to War of the Spark! So finally, he concludes with looking back. In general, I believe this last year was a good one for Magic design, but I leave with the takeaway that players seem more enamored when we're willing to push the boundaries, wrong, and try new things, yeah, kinda, than when we just stick with the status quo. No, just print something playable. Just stop trying to print overpowered, hyper crazy, pushing the limit crap that always backfires. Always. Every single time it backfires. And just print a set that's playable. Just a standard, normal set that's playable so we can play Magic. If that sounds like it might be too vanilla and too boring, you would have to try pretty hard to make that true. If they just played it safe and printed like 4 sets in a row with safe mechanics, like, those half mechanics that I keep referencing where Wither is half Death Touch, and then we had, what was that? The one where when this creature becomes blocked, the trigger goes off. That was basically semi-trample. And then the semi-hexproof, where it costs 1 extra mana to target this creature with a spell. Just keep printing half mechanics because, hexproof and trample are kind of OP a little bit in the right circumstances. And people would say, oh, this is novel, this is unique, oh, I could build a deck around this. I could try this and try this and try this and try this. You can't say that when Scarab God is in standard, because then you can't play any of that because that deck's going to dominate and that's all you can play. When somebody has 40 control cards and then Approach of the Second Sun, it really doesn't matter what your opponent's playing. They're not playing anything because everything's getting blown up or countered. That's not fun. You should stop printing stuff like that on purpose and knowingly. The fact that wasn't mentioned in this entire article, that just Control-a-thon shut down basically prison decks have completely ruined standard in 2019 and 2018, it just shows that he's not going to fix it. They think, oh, variety, oh, look at this, oh, color variance, ooh. But how much fun are the players who go to F&M having? Don't care about Magic Fest, Pro Tour, GP, whatever the hell you call it. I don't care about those people. Nobody cares about those people. I don't care what they think of standard. I don't care what decks they bring. I care, and Wizards should care, about the people, the other 99.9%, I am not kidding, that is approximately what the number is, who buy the sets and play locally, either by themselves or in structured play at F&M. How good of a time they're having should be the number one priority. Not, oh, look at this beautiful setup and look at the draft scene. But are you losing customers? How much are you selling? And how much enjoyment are people getting out of your product? Because if the answer is not enough, you aren't going to have a game left. In 2020, the priorities should absolutely, unequivocally, not debatably be the highest variety of mid-level, mid-power decks by 2019 standards, so that players feel like they can and should build whatever they want and actually have a chance of winning, as long as they're good at deck building and aren't completely dreaming. Basically, any good, solid deck idea that has a solid foundation, solid math, should be competitive. Not, well, it doesn't beat Red Russian, it doesn't beat Blue-White Controls, so I can't play it. Which was like the entire tail end of Amonkhet's block being legal. That was that was it. That was the entire meta, those two decks. If people feel like on Arena and at F&M, oh, I could build a tribal deck and that looks fun. Oh, I could do all flyers. That we got some support for that. That would be a reasonably good deck. Or, oh, I could do this new novel, interesting deck that nobody's seen before. Oh, I saw a deck idea on the internet and I thought I might try my own variation of that. Which is not by definition net decking. Net decking is copying the top tournament results because you think it's the best deck in the world and you're obsessed with winning. That is net decking. Net decking is not copying any deck off the internet because it looks fun. That is commonly referred to as playing Magic the Gathering. And if people feel like, oh, I could do this deck or this deck or this deck, they're going to build more decks. They're going to show up to F&M more. They're going to spend triple because they're building more decks because, oh, I got a new deck idea and I want to try it. Oh, now I've got a new deck idea and I want to try it. Not just, Well, I guess I'll struggle through FNM with this because I have a 40% win rate against the bullshit in the meta right now. Can't wait for rotation because that's where everybody's been stuck at over and over and over for the last like 2 years. I mean, just think how many more packs people would open and how many more wild cards people would burn if instead of just, okay, what's competitive? Cool, I'll run this deck every day forever, 10 games a day with the same damn deck. If instead of that, it was like, oh, no, there's really no outliers as like the craziest unbeatable decks that I have to worry about. I could just build something reasonably good and expect to win an okay amount of times with it. You're going to build 5 to 10 different decks instead of one deck, and people are going to spend more money because the game's fun and enjoyable, and they're willing to spend money on it because they're having fun doing it. Not just, well, I guess I'll just death march through this bullshit meta right now and play White Ajani's Pride Mate because it does okay against Red Rush and the other 3 decks. I wish I could build something else, but why bother? It's not going to win. And that's where, when Wizard says we want high variety, high variety, high variety, that's what they mean, but they're completely misinterpreting high variety. They're looking at like, you know, this 3-color control deck and that 3-color control deck and then that one over there, and they function and operate a little bit differently. They play at different speeds. They still shut down everything your opponent does, and they're still all not fun. I group them all completely in the same category. They need to start doing the same. I mean, they even made a statement that really pissed me off where they were like, oh, we got white-red blitz, like super quick ambush rush blitz turn 4, turn 5. Oh, no, we've got mono red rush. Those are 2 completely different decks. No, they're not. They had the same playstyle and the same archetype, the same everything. All they changed was a couple spells and a color. It's the same deck. In fact, mono white creature blitz was the same deck too. It was a little bit more conservative and time bit slower, but it was still absolute in-your-face, all-out creature rush, and all 3 of them functioned the same way. All 3 of them were countered by the same cards, and all 3 of them won too much if they went first. So functionally, they were the same deck. We need mid-range, we need ones where control is tactically and appropriately used, but not completely spammed on every turn to shut down everything. The whole point of control in the game is wait until the right opportune time to unleash this control spell, to undo their combo, to undo their most powerful card, to counter something at just the right time, to blow up something that's in your way and go for a win. You need to tactically use control. Control is extremely important in the game. But then you get like Search for Azcanta and drawing 3 cards per turn and Chemist's Insight, and where you're just like, oh, I've got enough to counter everything, and if I don't, I got 2 board wipes. That should never be a thing. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. I mean, do you want to do a fun little experiment at home? If you don't believe me, you're still on the fence like, nah, I bet it's not as annoying as Des thinks it is. I think he just doesn't like that. Find people who don't show up to FNM anymore and ask them why they stopped showing up. The vast majority of the time, it will be control decks. So if they just say like money, you say, well, what do you mean money? Like, why did you feel the need to rebuild? Oh, because I got to play around control. So like, it is control. If you basically almost ask them, did you leave because people are playing too control-y crap and you got sick of it? They will admit the answer is yes. And then, like I said, the 2 biggest menaces were Control-a-thon shit show draw decks and blitz decks, both of which don't let you play your deck, because if you lost on turn 4, you didn't get to do shit. So they're both very aggravating and drive people away from the game so they can do something more enjoyable, because they put all the time and effort in building this beautiful, interesting, neat deck, and then they don't get to play it at all. It gets just the power plug pulled from it, totally shut down, done and gone. What an absolute slap in the face to a deck building game. So they need to be far more aggressive about the bans. They need to stop printing control enabling stuff, which, I mean, they can print all the damn control they want, just don't back it up with card draw. I mean, everybody knows this. Card draw is always the problem when control gets out of control. Always, 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 because otherwise they burn themselves out by like turn 8. If you mix control with draw, you are going to have a shitty standard for bare minimum a year. That has been provably true over the last 6 years. So that is what I would focus on, is getting rid of that scenario and getting rid of individual cards either during design or with aggressive bans so that you can promote fun and enjoyment and deck building and the buying of singles. If you don't do that at your absolute core, Wizards, you are going to keep losing customers, and word is you lost customers in 2019. So to look back and have this overwhelmingly positive review of 2019, like Mark Rosewater did, if you read the whole thing in its entirety, it was overwhelmingly positive with some tiny little, nitpicky, people didn't like this. No, 2019 was a disaster. The only silver lining is that 2018 was worse, and if I remember, 2017 was even worse. But 2019 was very, very, very bad for standard. 6 sets need to be legal max. They need to go to the 6-month rotation. Everybody knows this. They need to stop printing overpowered, impossible to deal with cards, and they need to stop enabling control and blitz. If they do those 3 things, it would be very difficult to screw up the game past that. Because at least then it would be playable at a basic level and there would be some enjoyment to be had at some level of competitiveness. Anything other than that, and it's just going to be another year of the same crap and them not fixing anything. But they didn't acknowledge anything I just said in this entire article, so don't count on it. I mean, I hate to leave it on that bad of a outlook, but I'm going to be real with you. That's what it is. Also, we need a cat planeswalker that's literally just like a hyper-intelligent house cat, and then we also need a beholder on a card. Okay, get it done. So anyway, thanks for watching. That's my take on his ridiculous take on the year in review. Doesn't really bode well for 2020, which is mostly designed and done anyway. So anything he said they learned, not really. You'll see these alleged changes and adjustments in 2021, and then they'll be fixing 2020's problems at that point. So yeah, that's just lead time. Not much you can do about that, but they do need to start getting back to reality with what's really wrong with the product. And what's wrong with the product is it's not fun or enjoyable. So good luck with that, Wizards. I'll see you guys next video.